What is Marxism? Did the dreams of Karl Marx live on, or did they die along with him? Welcome to Uck Truth. Today we're going to be talking about the history of Marxism and how it adapted and changed throughout history. And then in 2 weeks, I'll be releasing a part 2 of this video and talking about Marxism in the US and what it looks like today. But for this episode, we're just going to be focusing on the history of Marxism and how it progressed throughout history, as well as talking about why we should be concerned about whether this philosophy comes to the US or not. So to discover the history of Marxism, we need to go back to 1848 to the beginning of Marxism. In the heart of Europe, amidst the Industrial Revolution's clamors, a young philosopher named Karl Marx emerged. His keen mind, fueled by a desire for social justice, dissected the complexities of capitalism, exposing its inherent contradictions. Marx's journey led him from the bustling streets of Paris to the smoky factories of Manchester, where he witnessed firsthand the plight of the working class. He delved into history, philosophy, and economics, seeking to understand the forces that shape society. In 1848, a pivotal year of revolutions across Europe, Marx, along with his comrade, Friedrich Engels, penned the Communist Manifesto. This powerful document, a rallying cry for the proletariat, proclaimed, "Workers of the world, unite." The manifesto, a concise yet profound analysis of capitalism, laid bare its exploitative nature and predicted its eventual downfall. It ignited the flames of revolution, inspiring generations of activists and thinkers. Marx's life was one of relentless intellectual pursuit, driven by a deep-seated belief in the possibility of a just and equitable society. His ideas, though controversial, continue to resonate, shaping debates on economics, politics, and social justice. So that is a summary of Karl Marx's life and how he and Engels eventually wrote the Communist Manifesto. Now, Karl Marx also wrote many other works as well, and we'll go into greater detail on those in the next episode. But like I said, we're going to be focusing on the history of Marxism today, the overall history of Marxism today, and how it progressed throughout history. So Karl Marx's idea of this communist society was a society where people would work to their capabilities. If you're able to do something, if you're able to build houses or work in a factory or be a farmer, you would contribute equally. You contribute where you were needed. And then on the flip side, you would also only receive what you needed. You wouldn't take more than what you needed. You would take only what you needed. So everyone would be on an equal playing field. There would be the end results for everyone would be the same. No one be wealthier than the other. Everyone would be on the same level. So that was his idea of a perfect society. And he says that in that society, that everyone would be able to be free to dream and pursue their passions and the hobbies that they wanted to pursue. He says that in the morning you could be a fisherman, in the afternoon you could be a gamesman, in the evening you could just relax in your parlor. You could do anything you wanted because you would essentially have more time to just freely indulge in what you desire to do and your passions and desires. Now, at first glance, this does seem like a great society. It sounds like the perfect utopia that people say that Karl Marx was envisioning, a perfect utopia. It sounds good. Karl Marx was also firmly against capitalism and thought that it had flaws that would lead to a worldwide revolution and in turn, communism would take its place and lead in his utopian dream. And he famously ended his Communist Manifesto, like we just read earlier, all workers of the world unite. Now, Marx was also an atheist, and he argued that religion was a social opioid. It was a social opioid that offered false comfort and distraction from real life problems. Now, Karl Marx firmly believed that people would rise up and overthrow those in authority, those in an oppressive position, those that were oppressing them. But nothing ever happened other than small, localized revolutions. The massive revolution to overthrow capitalism never came to fruition, and capitalism lived on. And the utopia he dreamed of, it never came to be. And Marx died in 1883, never seeing the dream take place, and he never saw the fall of capitalism. In the early 1900s, new faces joined the movement and took on what Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels had started. One of these new faces was Antonio Gramsci. He was an Italian Marxist philosopher and political theorist, and despite being imprisoned for much of his adult life, he produced a rich body of work, notably his prison notebooks. And his ideas have been a profound and lasting impact on the Marxist thought and cultural ideas. Now, Gramsci argued that Marx was actually wrong in what he said about capitalism self-destructing. He argued that there was a cultural hegemony that Marx had missed. And he says that the ruling class not only maintains control through force or coercion, but through a cultural means as well. He argued that they pushed their worldview, their values, and their beliefs as the common sense of society. And they achieved this through the institutions of civil society, which are the family, the education system, religion, media, trade unions, and popular culture. Gramsci argued that through these means, the leading class pushed their agenda, pushed their beliefs, their values, and their worldview on everyone else. And it was through this cultural means that they maintained power. Now, that might look like, for example, the education system. They would be in control of the education system. They would be the ones appointing teachers and tell them what they had to teach. And they would push their worldview through the classroom. And same with the churches and religion. They would spread their worldview through religion as well. And they would use these to then affect everything else, the media, the family, and so on. So through the areas where teaching occurred is where Gramsci argued that the ruling class would spread their worldview. And Gramsci said that the hegemony wasn't constant, but that it was a constant struggle and negotiation. He argued that in order for the socialist society to succeed, the working class needed to challenge and dismantle the hegemonic powers in civil society. Gramsci also masterminded a revolutionary strategy based on military tactics: war of position and war of maneuver. Now, war of maneuver was a frontal assault, a rapid seizing of power from the state. And Gramsci believed that this was the best strategy if the state was weak and civil society was underdeveloped. So war of position, however, was a trench battle. This strategy was for societies with a strong and complex civil society, like Western Europe or America today. This was a prolonged approach, gradual, over time, changing of opinion in society, and it involved building a counter hegemony by challenging the dominant ideas of the current hegemony in various institutions in the civil society. So changing the opinions within the church, within the family, within the school. So that they need to change the ideas in those institutions first in this prolonged trench battle. And they needed to win the consent of the masses and form alliances against the hegemonic powers. And this war of position then prepares the groundwork for the war of maneuver, the war that would eventually take over the state and institute a communist state. So this was Gramsci's revolutionary strategy on how to push Marxism forward and actually actually force capitalism to fall and put in place the communist regime. So this is what he said was the way to do it, and obviously he said that Karl Marx missed out on uh, actually the plan on how this was actually to take place. And Gramsci right here says it's through the culture and not through just people recognizing that they're being oppressed or that it's because of economy, but it's because of the culture. And he says the culture needs to change first. And this is how. In summary, Antonio Gramsci's main ideas revolve around understanding how power operates in society beyond mere economics and political control. His concepts of cultural hegemony and the strategic importance of civil society have provided invaluable tools for developing strategies for social transformation. And his work continues to be highly relevant in contemporary discussions about power, ideology, and social change. Now, Antonio Gramsci is not the only one that picked up where Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels left off. The Frankfurt School of Thought also stepped in. Frankfurt School was founded in 1923. It was made up of German-American intellectuals associated with the Institute for Social Research in Frankfurt, and they developed a body of thought known as critical theory. Critical theory aims to be a form of social analysis that not only describes and explains society, but also critiques it and contributes to the possibility of social transformation and human emancipation. It seeks to expose the hidden power structures that challenge and dominate ideologies. Now, this group of intellectuals, they recognized that the working class had not become the revolutionary force that Karl Marx predicted, and they explored other avenues for social change. They, along with Gramsci, recognized that the power of civil society over culture, and they argued that art, media, and pop culture shaped beliefs, values, and they, in fact, reinforced the status quo. Now, Frankfurt School offered a complex and critical perspective on modern society, arguing that while technology and economic progress had in fact occurred, they were also accompanied by new forms of social control, the manipulation of culture, and a decline in critical thought. And their work remains influential in understanding the relationship between power, culture, and individual experience. Now, shortly after Hitler took power in 1933, the Institute moved from Frankfurt to Geneva. And then shortly after that, they moved to New York City in 1935, where it joined Columbia University. Now, that was the general overview of the Marxist movement. And I'm going to warn you right now, we have not seen the end of this movement, and it might just be sitting right under our noses. Now, like I said earlier, in all honesty, Marx's idea of a utopia where people work as much as they are able and only take what they need sounds like a perfect and pleasant dream. And I have nothing wrong with the dream, but there is a massive flaw with his whole idea. His idea was created with the belief that humanity is inherently good and that there is no God. Now, although his dream of utopia is the right dream to have, he thought that it could be created here on Earth. But man is not inherently good. Man is sinful by nature, and there will always be people out there, sinful people out there, that are seeking power and control, no matter what. At the core of Marx's ideology, he wanted the communist state to control all land and all means of production, and distribute wealth according to one's need, and extract labor according to one's ability. And the reality of Marx's dream is that the state becomes the oppressor. So it's not the wealthy that are hiring the working class, it's now the state. The state is the oppressor. And the average citizen depends completely on the state for everything. This view of total dependence on the state will inevitably lead to a total collapse of society. This idea of society that Marx had, it promotes laziness. Now, for example, if I know that the state is going to give me whatever I need, regardless of whether I work or not, I'm never going to work. And I'm just going to tell the state, you know what? I'm not able to work. I don't have the ability to work, and I will just stay home and not work, and they can give me whatever they like. They can give me what I need, and I just will never have to do anything. So this society, although ideal, it promotes laziness. Well, then, if I make that argument, someone's probably going to argue back and say, well, you will be required to work in order to get those benefits. And then I'll say in response, aha, so even in a socialist society, capitalism still exists, at least to some extent. Except this time, I work for a communist state instead of someone that built a business from the ground up and became a successful businessman. So pick your poison, really. In capitalism, we have equal opportunity. It all depends on how hard you are willing to work. If you're lazy and rather sit around all day, then you're probably going to end up working at McDonald's for the rest of your life until you get up and start changing something about it. But if you are determined and work hard day after day towards your goals and your dreams, you can achieve them. You have the ability, you have the opportunity to achieve your dreams in this capitalist society. In a capitalist society, the only thing that is actually holding you back, it's not the people around you, it's not those that are richer than you, they're not holding you back. The only thing holding you back in a capitalist society is your own determination and your own willingness to work hard to achieve your goal. Those who support Marx's ideology want equal opportunity and equal results. In America today, we do have equal opportunity. We all have the opportunity to make our lives into what we want them to be. We all have the opportunity to become wealthy. But the results are not always going to be the same. Because some people don't want to get off the couch, and other people are very determined and are going to go to work day after day after day and work to achieve those goals. So the opportunities are the same, but the results are not. And that's where those who follow Marx's ideology are upset. They want everyone to have the same result, regardless of how much work they put in or how determined they are. They want to be having the same result. And they rather sit around and complain about those circumstances and wait for handouts rather than going out and getting the job done. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail on this yet because I'll be focusing on modern Marxism in the US in my next episode. But America is leaning closer to the Marxist agenda. And we are a lot closer than many people think. I mean, already just think about it. The more money that you make, the more the government takes and hands out to those in society who are too lazy to get off the couch or out of their parents' basement. So as I move up in how much I'm making, the government is just taking more and giving that to other people who are not working, the lazy people. They're giving out handouts using my money. Now, this type of stuff, when I think about it deeply, it really upsets me and frustrates me because I work hard day after day to achieve my goals, and I make more money. And as I make more money, the government continues to take more, and they hand out my hard-earned money to some lazy brat sitting in his parents' basement. And that irks me. That irks me a lot. Now, I'm not saying that I'm selfish and I don't like giving my money to people or like helping people out, because that is absolutely not true. I will happily try and help out those who are actually in need. If you're sitting in your parents' basement and getting handouts from the government, you're not in need. You're just rigging the system. That's it. So I will happily give money to someone who's actually in need and who actually needs help. Now, I know that there are people in society who physically can't work or got into a difficult financial circumstance one way or another. And yes, I do believe that they need help. And at this point in our nation, the government is the one that steps in to help in times of need. And if something doesn't change, that dependence upon the government is going to grow until we reach total communism. So that dependence on the government is a step towards communism. And the more we depend on the government, the more we're taking steps closer and closer and closer to full-on communism. For much of history, the church was the one that would step in and help those in need. And the Bible specifically tells believers to take care of the poor and the needy and to look after the widow and the orphan. At some point, the church began to neglect its role, and the government stepped in to fill its void. The church was supposed to care for these people out of love for the Lord. But the government doesn't give out of love. They give out of a desire and a will for power and control. If Marx's overall idea takes over America, we will be in trouble, and society will collapse, and all sorts of chaos will erupt. Marxism certainly did not die with Karl Marx. His ideas live on and have been refined by Antonio Gramsci and the Frankfurt School, who just happened to associate with the most riot-happy school today, Columbia University. Is that just a coincidence? I think not. Now, I'm sorry to leave you with this cliffhanger, but come back for the next episode as I will talk about modern-day Marxism and how Gramsci and the Frankfurt School kept it alive and made it into a much more dangerous weapon today. Thanks for listening to Echoing Truth. If you liked the episode, please consider liking and sharing with a friend. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Instagram, along with other social media networks. So please go ahead and subscribe and share with friends. Thank you.